She laughed when I said I'd leave if her deadbeat brother moved in. She wasn't laughing when the landlord posted an eviction notice and her credit score tanked 150 points. Hey Reddit, you ever get that feeling like your life accidentally turned into a sitcom, but nobody gave you the laugh track? That was me last year. Let's just say my girlfriend at the time had a freeloading brother who thought the world owed him rent-free living, and somehow I ended up being the bad guy when I didn't play along. It was the start of a chain of events that made me seriously question how blind I'd been to red flags the size of billboards. I, Ryan, 29 male, been with Claire, 27 female, for 4 years. We've shared a one-bedroom for 2, and I honestly thought marriage was the next chapter. Instead, she decided to turn our place into a halfway house for her brother. Tuesday night, I came home from work, dropped my keys in the bowl, and immediately clocked the look on Claire's face. She was sitting on the couch with this smug little grin, like a cat that found a way into the pantry. That look wasn't, "Hey babe, how was your day?" It was, "Brace yourself, I already made a decision, and your role is to applaud." She tells me Andy, her leech brother, is crashing with us for a bit. No warm-up, no, "How would you feel about this?" Just a done deal, announced like she was reading the weather. She even threw in that light tone people use when they're trying to package bad news as harmless, like saying just a little fender bender when the car's in 2 pieces. Now, Andy isn't some unlucky kid who fell on hard times. He's 24 and allergic to effort. The guy has worked more jobs than most people list on a resume, but the pattern's always the same. He shows up a few times, gets bored, blames everyone else, and quits. He did 2 weeks at a warehouse before management had it out for him. Tried being an electrician's apprentice until he realized electricity involves math and actual tools. He once called himself an entrepreneur because he tried selling energy drinks out of his trunk. Even tried college, dropped out after 1 semester because apparently professors didn't respect his hustle. Andy's hustle is mooching. His real skill is finding couches and people gullible enough to let him live on them. I've seen cockroaches with more drive. Claire called it temporary. A week, maybe 2. But Andy's definition of temporary is, until you literally drag me out. She didn't ask me, she told me. Then with a straight face added the cherry on top, "You'll help support him." That was the moment I mentally checked out. Supporting my girlfriend? Sure. Supporting her brother who thinks a job is oppression? Not happening. There are parasites with more self-awareness than Andy. I told her flat out, if Andy moves in, I move out. Of course she laughed like I was bluffing. She pulled the leases in my name card, like that somehow meant I was trapped. Newsflash, all that meant was when the bills came due, it wouldn't be my name. The landlord was circling in red ink. She thought it was a power move when we signed it, said it would build her credit. Turns out it was my get-out-of-jail-free card. And then, as if the universe wanted to prove my point, Andy texted me. The message read, "Thanks for being cool with me staying. You're a real one." Attached was his profile picture, chin tilted up like he's in a rap video, wearing a hoodie with the word hustle splashed across it. The irony? Andy's only hustle is hustling free meals. He's the type who posts motivational quotes about grinding while sitting in someone else's apartment, eating their cereal. That text told me everything I needed to know. Claire hadn't just made this decision. She'd already sold it to Andy as a guarantee. She promised him my couch, my groceries, and my paycheck without even looping me in. In her mind, I wasn't her partner. I was the sponsor. Like she signed me up for a charity without asking if I even liked the cause. I looked around our apartment in Unit B3. 1 bedroom, 1 couch, and now apparently a grown man-child who snores like a broken chainsaw was about to be my new roommate. The same guy who once borrowed my game controller on Thanksgiving called it Finders Keepers and never gave it back. Imagine that same energy, but applied to groceries, electricity, and toilet paper. I could practically hear him in my head already. "Bro, you don't mind covering me this week, right? You make more than me." Correction, I make something. He makes excuses. Bro, he doesn't even make anything. The thing is, I wasn't even mad. Not really. I wasn't pacing or yelling. I was calm. That scary kind of calm where you already know what you're going to do and nothing they say matters anymore. Claire thought I'd cool off and eventually shrug it off because, hey, family comes first. But family doesn't trump reality. And reality is Andy doesn't get back on his feet. He just finds back to ride and yeehaw on them. So I made my decision right there. Andy moves in Friday, I'm gone. She thought the lease in her name gave her leverage. What it really gave me was freedom. I wouldn't be chained to her decision. If she wanted to drag an anchor into her life, fine. But she'd be dragging it alone. And that was the start of the end. No arguments left to have, no compromise worth pretending for. The girl I thought I'd marry turned out to be the girl who volunteered me to bankroll her lazy brother. That smile on the couch told me she expected applause. All she got was silence, and the sound of me mentally packing my bags. If Andy was showing up Friday, then my stuff was leaving before he did. I started packing the basics into a couple duffel bags. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop. Nothing loud, nothing dramatic. Just methodical. Claire thought I was bluffing, but I've always believed the best way to prove someone wrong is to let them watch it happen. When I hauled the first box into the living room, Claire finally noticed. "What are you doing?" she asked, in that tone like I was rearranging furniture without permission. "Packing," I said. "You know, the thing you do before you move out." She rolled her eyes like I'd just told her the earth was flat. "You're not actually going anywhere." "Claire, half my stuff is already in boxes. You want me to leave a forwarding address or just let Andy use my mail too?" She scoffed. "You're so dramatic. Andy hasn't even moved in yet." "Exactly. And I don't intend to be here when he does." She followed me into the bedroom, arms crossed like she was trying to physically hold me in place with an attitude alone. "You'll cool down. You always overreact and then realize you're being unfair." "Unfair?" I dropped another stack of clothes into the box. "Unfair is being told I'm sponsoring a 24-year-old man-child without being asked." That's when she tried her first power play. "Fine, take your clothes. But the TV, the router, the kitchen stuff, that's ours." I couldn't help laughing. "Ours? Claire, you haven't paid for a single electronic in this place. Do you want to see the receipts? Because they're all in my email. Best Buy, Amazon, Target. My name, my card." Her face actually twitched. She'd clearly forgotten I keep everything digital. When I started pulling up receipts on my phone, she panicked. "Ryan, you can't just take everything." "Correction. I can take everything I paid for. You know what you bought? That candle on the counter that smells like fake lavender, and a throw pillow Andy will probably use as a plate." By the end of the night, I had stripped the place down like a repo man. The TV, the router, the decent pots and pans, the coffee maker, my desk, even the shower curtain. If I paid for it, it went into the car. Claire stood there, arms limp at her sides, watching half the apartment disappear in front of her. "This is insane," she muttered. "No," I said, wrestling the TV into the trunk. "What's insane is inviting your unemployed brother to live in a one-bedroom without asking your boyfriend." She tried a new angle. "The lease is in my name. You can't just leave me with the full rent." "You made a unilateral decision about who lives here," I said. "Now you're living with the consequences. All 2,100 of them. Every month." Her face drained when I reminded her of the rent. She could barely afford half on her own. Add Andy into the mix, and she might as well start paying in Monopoly money. Thursday morning, I loaded the last box into my car. Claire still thought I was bluffing, right up until she came home that evening and walked into an apartment that looked like a Craigslist photo before the after staging. "What the hell?" she snapped. "Where's the microwave?" "I took my stuff," I said simply. "Our stuff," she corrected automatically. I pulled out my phone and waved the screen at her. "Nope, Best Buy says otherwise. Check the email chain." That's when it hit her. She actually realized I wasn't bluffing, that she had wanted all the independence of having the lease in her name, and now she had the full responsibility. "You can't just leave me like this," she yelled. "You left me first," I said. "When you decided your brother was more important than your partner." She tried to spin it back to guilt. "It's 2,100 a month, Ryan. I can't afford that alone." "Good thing Andy will be there," I said. "He'll help out, right?" The look on her face told me she knew as well as I did Andy wouldn't contribute a dime. That night, I drove over to Derek's place, my best friend. He opened the door in gym shorts, holding a pizza box, looked at my overstuffed car, and grinned. "So you finally tapped out, huh?" "Andy's moving in Friday," I said. He let out a whistle. "Man, I was wondering how long you'd hold out. She really thought you'd eat that rent while her brother ate your groceries?" "Apparently. You just upgraded. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and rent that's about $150 cheaper than what you were paying. And bonus, I actually own forks." I laughed harder than I had in weeks. "You have no idea how much of a selling point that is." Derek walked me through the apartment. Bigger living room, in-unit laundry, even a balcony. It was like stepping into a different life. For $900 a month, I had more space and zero drama. Derek was clean, paid his share, and worked full-time. Already an upgrade from the chaos I left behind. Meanwhile, back at Claire's, she was probably staring at the empty wall where the TV used to be, realizing that Andy wasn't bringing anything except an appetite and excuses. She texted me later that night, "Please come back, we can talk about this. You're being unreasonable." I put my phone down. I wasn't being unreasonable. I was being smart. And for the first time in years, I actually felt free. Friday rolled around, and while I was unpacking at Derek's, Claire was busy upgrading from girlfriend to landlord/babysitter. Our neighbor Monica, who's friends with me and Derek, told us that Andy showed up with 2 duffel bags, a box of tangled cords that didn't connect to anything, and the kind of confidence only found in people who've never paid rent. By Saturday morning, reports from her started rolling in. She'd already panic bought a cheap Roku TV and a bargain router, just enough to keep Warzone and Netflix limping along. Claire texted me furious. Andy had eaten an entire week's worth of groceries in less than 24 hours. She bought cereal, eggs, chicken, frozen pizza, gone. The guy devoured the snacks and left empty boxes in the cupboard like a museum exhibit. And it didn't stop with food. He logged into her Amazon account and ordered a new gaming headset, charging it straight to her card. His excuse? "I need this to stay focused on job applications." Because nothing screams employment like surround sound Call of Duty. By Sunday, he was treating her one bedroom like a frat house. He dragged his buddies over for a gaming session that lasted 12 hours. They sprawled across the living room, yelling into headsets, guzzling soda, and leaving Dorito dust on every surface. Claire came home from her double shift at the dental office to find 3 strangers screaming at her TV while Andy sat there like a king, controller in hand, and asked her if she could pick up more Mountain Dew on her way back next time. The neighbors noticed too. Monica DM'd Derek a screenshot from our building's Facebook group. "Whoever is in Unit 3B, turn the volume down. Some of us work early." The comment thread underneath was brutal. People talking about music blasting at noon, doors slamming, trash left in the hall. Unit 3B was Claire's. Then came Andy's social media updates. On Instagram, he posted a selfie from the couch with the caption, "New chapter, protecting my peace. Mental health comes first." And in the background of the photo, Claire's laptop, her Netflix account on the TV, and takeout containers on the table. Protecting his peace apparently meant spending her money. Claire cracked and called me. Angry crying, not sad crying. "He ate everything," she shouted into the phone. "I told him to replace the groceries, and he said he doesn't have money." "Sounds like a roommate problem," I said. "Or should I say a you made this decision problem?" "This is your fault," she snapped. "If you were still here, this wouldn't be happening." I almost laughed. Right, because if I were there, Andy would magically stop being Andy. "Claire, he's been freeloading since high school. The only thing he's consistent at is draining other people." She hung up on me, but not before muttering that I was heartless. Meanwhile, Andy kept doubling down. He told Claire he couldn't job hunt because the market's impossible right now. I sent Claire a link to Derek's company, which was hiring customer service at $18 an hour with benefits. Andy's reply? "Nah, I don't want to deal with people all day." Translation: "I'd rather drain your account than talk to customers." Claire tried to spin it like he was just waiting for the right opportunity. I told her opportunities don't knock on the door of someone who sleeps till noon and eats other people's groceries. She didn't like that. The funniest part? Andy still had the nerve to text me directly. Out of nowhere, he wrote, "Yo, Claire said you took some stuff that would really help us out. Like the TV? Can I swing by and grab it?" I replied, "Sure, bring a receipt with your name on it." He didn't answer. By midweek, Claire was drowning. Rent was coming up, groceries were gone, her credit card balance was climbing, and Andy was still parked on her couch like he owned the place. I could see the stress in her messages. Long walls of text about how unfair I was, how she couldn't believe I'd leave her like this, how she was doing everything she could while I was laughing at her. She wasn't completely wrong about the last part. Derek and I were laughing. Every time another text popped up, Derek would read it in a mock dramatic voice. "How could you do this to me?" He turned her guilt trips into stand-up material. The truth is, she thought I'd cave, swoop back in, and save her from the mess she created. But I wasn't about to bail her out of a decision she never let me have a say in. Andy wasn't my problem anymore. He was hers. And for the first time since moving in with Claire, I felt like I'd made the smartest decision of my life. As rent crept closer, Claire started spiraling. Every text from her was another level of panic, the kind where she'd start with, "Please, just help me this one time." And by the end, she was calling me selfish. But math doesn't bend. Rent was $2,100. Andy's contribution was zero, and an appetite that could rival a plague of locusts. Her first move was a payday loan. Denied. Too much existing debt. Then she tried for a new credit card. Denied again. She stacked rejection letters like they were Pokemon cards. Finally, she made a GoFundMe titled, "Help Me Stay Housed After Abandonment." I nearly spit out my drink reading it. She painted herself as this strong woman supporting her poor, struggling brother while her evil ex walked out on her. What she left out was that her brother was a 24-year-old couch barnacle who spent his days gaming and inhaling her food. The campaign raised a whopping $30, all from her aunt. Meanwhile, Andy was in job hunting mode. Translation, he put on one of his 3 wrinkled button-ups, grabbed Claire's laptop, and announced he was heading to an interview. Claire naturally believed him. He even convinced her to hand over a couple hundred for work clothes. That same afternoon, Monica sent me screenshots from Andy's Instagram. There he was, posted up in the mall food court, sunglasses on indoors, captioning it, "Grind time, big things coming." The only big thing coming was his Cinnabon order. The shopping bags he posted? Sneakers, hoodies, graphic tees. Nothing even close to interview wear, unless the position was professional freeloader. 2 days later, Andy made his biggest lie yet. He told Claire he'd been hired at a boutique. Claire, in her infinite wisdom, sent me a smug told you so. Text, "See? He's working now. You misjudged him." She actually thought this erased weeks of freeloading. Turns out his job was 3 straight days sitting at the mall pretending to be busy. Monica spotted him camped in the food court again, scrolling his phone, same time every day. Claire caught on when she tried to surprise him with lunch and called the boutique. They had never heard of him. That night's fight was so loud, Monica said she heard it 2 floors down. Andy shouted that she didn't believe in him. Claire screamed back that he lied. He slammed the door, her apartment, and sulked like a grounded teenager. At this point, Claire's desperation turned outward. She tried dragging me back into her mess. Started with texts, then voicemails, then late-night calls. I ignored all of it. She escalated by calling my mom. My mom rang me the next morning, confused. "Why is Claire asking me for $2,000? She asked. "Because she's broke and thinks guilt pays bills," I said. "Don't give her a dime." Mom laughed, called Claire unbelievable, and hung up. Claire didn't stop. She tried my brother. She tried some of my old college friends. Then she hit the jackpot of bad ideas. She called my boss. I was in a meeting when he pulled me aside, holding his phone like it had just coughed on him. Ryan," he said. "Do you know a Claire? She called claiming you abandoned her, left her with rent, and that you're unstable." I braced myself, but my boss wasn't angry, just baffled. "I hung up on her," he said, "but maybe block her before she tries HR." When I told Derek later, he nearly fell over laughing. "She actually called your boss? That's like lighting yourself on fire and blaming the match manufacturer." "Yup," I said. "She's speed running rock bottom." But she wasn't done. 2 days later, she showed up in the company lobby with Andy. My coworker texted me a photo from reception. Claire, standing there with Andy in his wrinkled button-up, both looking like they were about to demand free samples at Costco. Claire had actually brought Andy to my office and told reception I'd help him get a job here. I only found out because my boss emailed me. "Do you know why your ex and her brother are trying to submit a resume here through you? Because we're not hiring." Andy's resume, by the way, was a crumpled printout riddled with typos. He'd listed leadership as a skill because he once ran a raid in World of Warcraft and tried to strong-arm reception into letting him hand it straight to HR. I called Claire after work. "Don't ever show up at my job again," I said. "You could have at least put in a good word," she snapped. "It's the least you can do after abandoning us." "Us?" I said. "There is no us. And your brother's only talent is draining bank accounts. He couldn't get hired to water plants." She hung up, furious. Andy posted a selfie later with the caption, "Gatekeepers hate when you think big, mindset." He'd just been laughed out of a reception desk and was pretending it was a conspiracy. Watching it all unfold felt surreal. Claire was clawing for money she didn't have. Andy was lying about jobs he didn't want. And both of them thought dragging me into their disaster would somehow save them. All it did was make the train wreck more entertaining to watch from the safety of Derek's couch. By the time October rolled in, Claire had turned full-time into what I can only call creative crisis management. She wasn't solving problems. She was inventing new ones at a professional pace. First, she tried this tenants' rights stunt. Somehow, she decided that since Andy had been living there for over a month, he couldn't legally be kicked out, which would have been cute if Andy actually paid rent, signed a lease, or contributed anything beyond leaving socks in the living room, like abandoned crime scene evidence. Claire printed off some random blog about squatters' rights and waved it around like it was gospel. Derek nearly choked when I told him. Bro, if that clown is a tenant, then pigeons on my balcony have property rights too. The irony? Andy himself didn't even want responsibility. He liked the fake threat of being a permanent fixture. But when Claire asked him to chip in for utilities, since technically you're a tenant now, he disappeared for 3 days. Came back with a story about networking with investors that turned out to be him playing poker at a buddy's house. While all this legal theater was going on, Andy managed to physically ruin the apartment. The couch, Claire's precious gray sectional she bragged about financing, became ground zero for disaster. Andy basically lived on it, slept, ate, and from the smell of it, maybe even showered on it. One morning, Claire noticed itchy welts all over her arms. She went nuclear, accusing me of bringing fleas from Derek's place. Nope. Pest control later confirmed. Bed bugs. The couch was infested. When I heard that, I laughed so hard Derek thought I was choking. He literally turned her living room into a biohazard, I wheezed. The exterminator bill was $700. Andy swore he'd cover it once his crypto payout cleared. Spoiler, there was no payout. Claire put it on her already maxed out credit card. Around then, her parents finally stepped in. Claire had been hiding the situation, but word spread after she begged an uncle for rent money. Her parents stormed in one Saturday while Andy was mid-gaming session. They lectured him about responsibility while he just nodded and pretended to listen, eyes glued to the screen. Then, in classic fashion, they turned on Claire. Why are you letting this go on? You're enabling him, her dad said. Claire cried, saying she couldn't abandon her brother. Her mom offered them both the classic, come stay with us, which honestly was the perfect solution. But Andy refused, said their place had too many rules and bad Wi-Fi. Bad Wi-Fi. Like he was negotiating corporate housing instead of free shelter. Claire sided with Andy, of course. He's finally trying to better himself, she insisted. Better himself at what? Surviving parasitically? At that point, even her parents gave up. They left muttering something about tough love and haven't been back since. With her family out, Claire doubled down on me again. She sent this long, dramatic text that read like a script from a bad drama. You put me in this position. If you had stayed, things would be stable. You left me no choice but to support Andy. This is your fault. I showed Derek, who responded, Man, I didn't know you were the cause of adult unemployment worldwide. That's heavy. Meanwhile, Andy had business ideas. He started talking about launching a YouTube channel. Said he'd film his entrepreneur journey and get sponsors. His first video? An unboxing of ramen noodles, filmed on Claire's phone, which he accidentally uploaded upside down. 2 views, both probably him refreshing the page. Then he pivoted. Next big idea was flipping couches. Yes, couches. The same item he just turned into a bedbug hotel. He posted in a local buy-sell group. Looking for free or cheap couches, will restore for profit. A lady actually messaged him. He borrowed Claire's car to pick one up, left it strapped to the roof with twine that snapped on the freeway. The couch tumbled into traffic and caused a fender bender. Andy blamed bad knots. Claire had to pay the towing ticket. Again. At this point, the apartment looked like a battlefield. The couch was gone, the pest control left holes in the walls, and Andy had dragged in a busted recliner from the curb that smelled like wet dog. Claire was constantly crying, Andy was constantly lying, and I was watching it all from Derek's place like it was a live-action sitcom I never asked for. The tipping point came when Claire's landlord finally got fed up. She was 2 months behind, her place was trashed, and neighbors complained about suspicious activity, aka Andy, selling broken electronics in the hallway. She got slapped with a pay or quit notice taped to the door, basically the landlord's warning shot before filing a real eviction. That same night, she called me 15 times. I finally answered just to shut her up. She was sobbing, telling me I ruined her life, and that Andy had nowhere to go. You mean the 24-year-old adult man? He'll figure it out, I said. She went silent for a beat, then hissed, You'll regret this. I hung up smiling. Because the truth was, I already didn't regret it. Claire was burning her own life down with Andy holding the lighter. And me? I was out, stress-free, watching karma do all the heavy lifting. Things really started spiraling for Claire after I refused to give her a dime for rent. She called me begging for $900, like I was her personal bailout fund. She actually said, You're abandoning me when I need you most. I couldn't help laughing. Claire, I abandoned you the second you let Andy turn your couch into a science experiment. Then I hung up. Her next brilliant move was calling the landlord and trying to rope me back into the lease. She told him I'd left without notice and that legally I was still responsible. The landlord called me himself, chuckling. She said all your stuff was joint property, too, he said, still laughing. I told her, lady, my building manager logged his move out and confirmed he paid everything up to the day he left. Don't waste my time. Hearing her tantrum get shot down like that? Priceless. Then the eviction notice showed up. Big neon orange sticker slapped on her door. 2 months behind, damage to the unit, pests, game over. Her credit tanked so hard it might as well have drilled for oil. Between the late payments, collections piling up, and now the eviction filing, her score cratered by about 150 points. She even rage texted me a screenshot in all caps, blaming me. Derek laughed so hard he printed it out and stuck it to his fridge like it was fan art. But Claire wasn't done embarrassing herself. She and Andy decided to take me to small claims court. Their claim? That I abandoned her, causing financial hardship, and that I stole shared property. The property in question? My PlayStation and my desk chair, both of which I had receipts for in my name. Walking into that courtroom felt like a comedy special. Claire had this binder covered in sticky notes like she was presenting at a middle school science fair. Andy strolled in wearing a wrinkled hoodie, monster can in hand, like caffeine was his attorney. Meanwhile, I had my receipts in order, text screenshots neatly printed, and Derek beside me, smirking like he'd bought front row tickets to a roast. Claire launched into this dramatic speech about betrayal and commitment, rambling about how she was emotionally damaged. The judge cut her off mid-sentence. This is small claims, not couples counseling. Stick to the facts. She froze. Andy tried to pick up the slack, babbling about shared assets and implied agreements. The judge stared at him and asked, "Do you have receipts? Proof of contribution?" Andy shrugged and muttered, "It was kind of implied, you know." I slid my folder forward. Receipts for every single thing they mentioned. Proof of my move-out date. Screenshots of Claire's texts admitting Andy wasn't paying rent. The judge flipped through, sighed, and looked at them like he was grading the dumbest essay he'd ever read. This is a waste of the court's time. Case dismissed. Then he turned to them and added, "If you attempt to bring this up again without evidence, you'll both be sanctioned." Andy muttered under his breath that the system was rigged. Claire looked like she was about to cry. Derek whispered, "Best $10 I've ever spent on parking," and I almost lost it trying not to laugh in front of the judge. Walking out of that courthouse was the most satisfying part. Claire stormed off in the opposite direction, Andy trailing behind her like a sulky toddler. Derek and I headed straight for tacos, celebrating their self-destruction over extra guac. But the real BS came a week later. I get a call from a random recruiter. She goes, "Hi, just checking references on Andy. You're listed as his former supervisor?" I almost choked on my coffee. I've never supervised Andy in my life, unless you count telling him to put on deodorant. Turns out Claire had been submitting applications for Andy and slapping my name down as a reference. She figured no one would bother checking, I guess. Except this recruiter did, and now I was the lucky guy getting dragged into their scam. I told her flat out, "Andy's my ex's freeloading brother. He's never worked for me. If he told you otherwise, that's a lie." The recruiter thanked me and said, "Honestly, that makes sense. His resume looks like he made it on Canva at 3 a.m. That one phone call opened the floodgates. Over the next week, I got 3 more calls from different agencies, all asking the same thing. Claire and Andy had mass blasted his fake applications everywhere with my name plastered on them. Each time I shut it down. By the 3rd call, I was laughing so hard I just said, "Look, save yourself the headache. Don't touch him with a 10-foot pole." It backfired spectacularly. Word spreads fast in recruiter circles, and Andy got flagged on a couple lists for fraudulent applications, basically blacklisted from multiple agencies. Instead of landing a job, he got himself nuked out of the candidate pool altogether. Claire flipped when she found out. She texted me, "You ruined his career. You sabotaged him on purpose." I replied, "Claire, you listed me without asking. That's fraud. If anything, I saved those companies from wasting time on him." "You're welcome." Derek nearly fell out of his chair laughing when he heard that one. And the best part? This was all them. I didn't scheme or interfere. They dragged my name in. I just told the truth. Andy went from up-and-coming entrepreneur to unemployed pariah, and Claire was still sitting in an apartment with eviction notices stacked like playing cards. Even Jessie, one of Claire's closest friends, hit me up to say she was done with her. She said Claire had been begging her for money constantly and trying to guilt-trip her into co-signing a new lease. Monica wrote, "She's toxic, and Andy's worse. I can't deal with either of them anymore." So between the eviction, the credit score implosion, the public courtroom spanking, and Andy getting blacklisted by recruiters for fake references, Claire's life was basically a cautionary tale. And the best part? I hadn't lifted a finger. Every bit of her downfall was self-inflicted. I was just the guy with receipts, tacos, and Derek cracking jokes on the sideline. About 2 months after the court circus, I got an email from Claire. Subject line, closure, which in Claire speak basically means one more monologue nobody asked for. She went on about how she realized Andy ruined everything and how she'd destroyed what we had by putting him first. It read like a half-assed confession mixed with a pity party. The kicker? She ended with, I hope someday you can forgive me. No, I didn't even bother typing a response. I clicked archive and went back to eating leftover pizza. That's about the level of closure she deserved. A week later, Derek told me he'd run into Claire's mom at the grocery store. According to him, she actually thanked me. Well, through him, for standing firm when they couldn't. Apparently, the whole family had finally cut Andy off completely. His freeloading, the fake jobs, the scams, they'd had enough. We just couldn't enable him anymore, she'd said. Took them long enough. Andy didn't take the cutoff gracefully, of course. He tried one last stunt that really sealed his reputation. He catfished some guy he met on Discord, pretending to be a girl from Florida. Got the guy to send him money for bus tickets and even offered him a couch to crash on. But the guy figured it out when Andy forgot to switch accounts and sent a message from his real username. Screenshots went viral in a couple Discord servers, and Andy got roasted into oblivion. Memes, nicknames, the works. That was basically the end of Andy's credibility anywhere online. Meanwhile, my life was smoother than it had been in years. I even started seeing someone new. Nothing dramatic, no rushing it, just normal. The kind of normal I didn't realize I'd been missing while dealing with Claire and Andy's endless circus. It felt refreshing to have conversations that didn't circle back to somebody's overdue rent or fake job applications. Nothing heavy, just easy, fun. She's independent, has her own car, actually pays her bills. Basically the complete opposite of Claire and Andy. Every time we hang out, I wonder why I ever tolerated the circus I used to live in. And as for the old apartment, it only took a few weeks after Claire and Andy's eviction before the landlord had it cleaned up, repainted, and re-rented. Some older couple moved in, the type who plant flowers outside and wave to the neighbors. Derek texted me once saying he saw Claire standing on the sidewalk, watching them move in, arms crossed, eyes watery, probably realizing that the place she trashed with her brother's garbage was now someone else's peaceful home. Poetic justice, if you ask me. And that's when it really hit me. The best revenge wasn't slamming doors, suing them, or clapping back at every text. It was just walking away and letting them choke on their own choices. Andy wanted shortcuts, Claire wanted control, and both of them thought I'd play along forever. Turns out, all I had to do was stop playing. Now Claire's stuck in her parents' basement, Andy's a Discord meme, and I'm moving forward with actual adults in my life. Not a bad trade-off.